Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio in Atlanta, Georgia. It's time for Atlanta Business Radio. Brought to you by Kennesaw State University's Executive MBA program, the accelerated degree program for working professionals looking to advance their career and enhance their leadership skills. And now, here's your host.
Lee Cantor here, another episode of Atlanta Business Radio, and this is going to be a good one. But before we get started, it's important to recognize our sponsor, KSU's Executive MBA program. Without them, we couldn't be sharing these important stories. Today on Atlanta Business Radio, we have Dan Clark with Westfall Gold. Welcome.
Thank you, Lee. Appreciate the invitation. Glad to be here.
Well, I'm so excited to learn what you're up to. For folks who aren't familiar, can you share a little bit about Westfall Gold? How are you serving folks?
Yeah, so Westfall Gold serves nonprofit organizations who are advancing good by helping them engage audiences of high-capacity givers. We describe ourselves as an experience design agency and a fundraising consultancy for organizations that are passionate about advancing good.
So what's the backstory? Can you share a little bit about the origin story?
Sure. So our founder, Bob Westfall, a little over 20 years ago, he was the chief development officer at a nonprofit organization in the Atlanta area, and he was charged with a task of raising a significant amount of money in a rather short period of time. And the president and CEO of the organization at the time, he said, Bob, I can't go do a roadshow with you. You're going to have to find another way. So Bob said, you know what, how about we bring all of the donors to you and let's host an event. And that became the inaugural edition of Westfall Gold's major donor experience. And 600 events later, we've served hundreds of nonprofit organizations, different sizes, sectors over the last 21 years. But it all got started out of that necessity. And we see organizations, large and small, still today benefiting from that approach. There's a lot to be said for gathering groups of people, homogenous, like-minded leaders that have a passion for the cause and the mission of the organization.
So in the nonprofit world, or the fundraising world, is that unusual? Is that not how most of them go about doing fundraising?
Well, I can't speak to what most are doing. Our focus is on the major donor segment. Specifically, it is the one, numerous outlets have reported over the last couple of years that it is the one donor segment in America that's actually growing. While others are shrinking, the major donor audience is actually growing. And I think the other factor that we have our eyes on is really going back to 2006, there's been a consolidation in giving. You have a smaller percentage of people who are giving a larger percentage of the dollars. It used to be like 80-20, the Pareto principle. You would see that played out in most nonprofits. 20% of the donors are giving 80% of the money. And then we went through the economic crisis in 06-07. You had the early 2010s. It started to shrink, and you come out of the pandemic, and we're now in a 90-10 environment for most nonprofits. 10% of the donors are giving 90% of the dollars. And if economists are right, and we continue to see a widening of the income gap, that dynamic is going to become only more and more real and more consequential for donor-funded organizations. If they do not have an effective major donor engagement strategy, it's going to be difficult times. And we see those who are succeeding in this arena, they are thriving even in our current times. And those who are absent of that strategy, they're fighting to survive.
Now, in the fundraising world, is there a kind of an amount of donors you have to have in order to use the Westfall Gold methodology? Like, do you have to have 1,000 donors so you can peel off that 10%, or can you do it with even like a startup nonprofit?
Yeah, we've served organizations, large and small, some that are, in the top 100 list, largest charities in the United States, and others that are just getting started. So there's range, and we offer a variety of options, and we're looking for what's the best fit for the client organization, whether it's a weekend-long experience, maybe it's a one-night event, it could be a week-long cruise. We do those too. But what's important is that we take the time at the beginning of every conversation, even before we enter into a contract with a client, we do a screening of their file to try to determine whether or not they are ready to be successful with this approach. We don't want to take anybody on as a client that we don't believe can be successful. So it can be relative to the number of donors that are in their file. It can be it can be based more on the capacity of a small number that just have a tremendous capacity to give. And if we can get that group in the room and move the needle in the right direction, they're going to be very successful.
And can you help a brand new nonprofit that doesn't have kind of that database of former donors, begin the process and get those initial donors to help them launch?
Yes, we absolutely could. And that is common for us. We'll be approached by younger and smaller nonprofits that have a lot of vision, and we're cheering them on. And we would tell them, you're not quite ready for an event yet, but we can help you get ready. And so that's another area of service for Westfall Gold, and that is development consulting. We have a team of veteran major donor fundraisers who have led different development shops at different nonprofits around the country and in their earlier years. And so we bring that expertise to those smaller nonprofits and help them develop their ground game and build the infrastructure and the strategy that's necessary to position them to eventually host that large gathering where they're going to really move the needle in a big way.
Is there any advice you can share for those emerging nonprofit brands to get them jump-started? Is there some kind of low-hanging fruit they could be doing now to get them ready?
Build relationship. Major donor fundraising. In fact, all successful fundraising, we believe it's not transactional, it's relational. And when you can move away from transactional giving to relationship-based giving, that changes everything. And it's the only way to be successful with major donors, in fact. And so my encouragement to those smaller organizations is do the hard work, start now doing the hard work of building true relationship with the family of supporters that you have around you. And relationship will go the distance, and it'll ultimately win the day.
Now, what are some ways that nonprofits can incent the donors? Is this something that you have to have kind of like the tiers, like platinum level or gold level, or is this something that you kind of create bespoke incentives for these top donors?
We create bespoke experiences, not incentives. Again, incentive would take you back into a transactional relationship. You're going to give this and you're going to get that. And that's not at all what we're trying to do in our environments, whether it's a one-night gathering, a weekend long or a week long event. What we are endeavoring to accomplish is to build community and to inspire trust and to deliver a compelling case for support. And those are the things that ultimately draw people in and lead them to give at a transformational level. And there's important components there. Building community. People want to be part of a winning team. They don't want to feel like they're the only one who is funding this endeavor, funding this mission. They want to know that there are other successful, like-minded people who see the same thing they do, who see the same opportunity. And when they look around the room and they see people who have experienced success like them and they're choosing to invest in this mission, this organization, they feel even greater confidence about their own decision. And again, you're talking about relationship there. They're going to have opportunity to grow in relationship with like-minded individuals and grow in relationship with the organization. Inspiring trust is creating a deepened understanding of what the organization does and how they do it. Business people who have the ability to give significant dollars, they care very much about your business plan, that they have not become successful by being sloppy in their decision making or their investments, and they care deeply about how you're going about accomplishing your mission. They care about your financial governance practices. They want to know about your fiduciary controls. And so we surface that information in a proper context, and we inspire a trust both in the organization and its leadership. And all of that is part of delivering a compelling case for support, where you're delivering an intellectual case, an emotional case, and the transformational case. And that is ultimately what gets people across the finish line and moves them to make what is often the largest gift they've ever made in their lives. It's understanding the impact that a dollar is going to make, or $100,000 or $1 million, the impact that these dollars are going to make in the life of a person. And sharing that story effectively really creates that transformational case that gets people across the finish line, like I said.
Now, can you maybe share a story of one of the experiences you helped an organization do, and really differentiate how that experience is different than, say, a gala or some of the events that are more traditional?
Yeah, there's a place for the one night gala events, and we support those, and we've had great success. Even recently, we partnered with a organization, a nonprofit in the Denver area this summer, and helped them raise just over $5 million in one night. I'm not going to mention names here to protect client confidentiality, but it was a name that a lot of people would recognize. Opposite end of the spectrum from that one night event, we have clients that we serve in hosting week-long cruises, where you are taking a group of maybe 100 or more couples, and you are spending a week together, maybe in Europe or Alaska, maybe even the Caribbean during wintertime. Everybody loves to get away from the cold. And that's an environment where you get to really become family with your donor audience, because you are sharing multiple meals together throughout the week. You're enjoying entertainment on the ship, on shore, different excursions that people will participate in. That extended period of time, it just creates a proximity that allows for natural and sincere relationship to be developed. And again, that's the big win here, is when we move people from transaction to relationship.
Now, you mentioned that your service is for all nonprofits, but is most of your work done in certain niches? Like, do you focus on faith-based? Do you focus on like chambers of commerce, medical? Do you have kind of a specialty?
I wouldn't say that we have a specialty. We have a track record of serving many faith-based organizations. We serve a number of universities, medical research foundations. We have just entered into serving hospitals. And we're excited about the opportunity to serve organizations that are advancing good in many different sectors. So we're kind of arms wide open.
So now, right now, you are the new CEO. Can you talk a little bit about how you got there?
Yeah, so joined the Westfall Gold team almost 3 years ago. It was January 1 of 2022. And prior to that, I was in the client seat for 11 years. I spent 15 years serving as vice president at Convoy of Hope, a humanitarian organization that now is, according to the Forbes list, the 35th largest charity in the United States. They do disaster response and international development, meeting the needs created by poverty and hunger. And we hired Westfall Gold back in 2013 to help us engage an audience of major donors. We had taken several attempts at the plate, and a lot of swing and miss. We had just not been able to figure it out. And we had experience doing events, and we felt like we had the competency that was needed. But again, we'd not discovered the sweet spot, and there was nothing we had done that we wanted to repeat. I'll put it that way. And so we got introduced to Westfall Gold, and their approach honestly, Lee, it pushed us outside of our comfort zone because it represented a significant investment, more than we had ever chosen to invest to create an experience like this for major donors. And I'll go ahead and eat the humble pie here and give you the expanded version of the story. So we told Westfall Gold, we like what you're offering here, but a few things make us uncomfortable. We don't think we need this, or this. And Westfall Gold was real gracious. Bob Westfall was the one serving us at the time, and he said, "Hey, we hear you. We've gone on the record. This is what we believe is best, but nonetheless, we want to work with you guys. We're gonna try to make the best of what you are comfortable with here, and we're cheering you on. And hey, maybe we'll learn something." And so we did that first event, and honestly, the results were entirely underwhelming. We invested about $150,000 and raised $450,000. Now, you might say that's 3 to 1. That's good. We didn't lose money, but we were looking to raise millions of dollars. We needed a greater harvest. And so we kind of felt like, big whoop. And that led us to a gut check moment internally with our management and board. And we said, all right, if we're going to do this again, we need to do it the Westfall way. We need to follow their counsel and just run their playbook. And so a year later, we did that. We increased our investment. It was about $650,000 invested to pull off that first event. And we ended up raising just shy of $3 million. And that was really when the glass ceiling was shattered for us. And that return on investment that we experienced at that first event is consistent with what Westfall Gold has delivered for its clients over the last 10 years. Over 10 years, our ROI is consistently 5 to 1 or better. And in fact, last year, our average return on investment was 6 to 1 in 2023. And this year, it's been even better. The giving results in 2024 have been record-breaking, and we will probably set a new record for total dollars raised this year. We raised $316 million last year, and we're on pace to eclipse that here in 2024. So it is not a small investment for that kind of experience. And again, we offer a variety of options, but the ROI is tremendous, and there really is not anything else out there that we were able to find when I was at Convoy of Hope that could deliver that kind of return. I mean, I wish my 401k could do that. Convoy, we did that first event and, $3 million. And then the next year we did it again. We deepened our investment, got more people in the room. We almost doubled the return. And we just went on this rocket ride over this 10-year period where we started adding multiple events a year. We'd do a spring event on the West Coast, a fall event on the East Coast. We started adding summer events. And at this point, Convoy is still a client of Westfall Gold, one of our most valued clients, and we will do 5 or 6 events for Convoy next year. And I can tell you that it was a significant factor in the growth trajectory of the organization. Westfall Gold helped us really figure out how to engage this audience of high capacity givers and do so in a way that it created a family that wanted to invite their friends, and it just kind of feeds itself at a point. And you just keep leading with big vision. What's important on the other side of the equation, though, Lee, for nonprofit leaders who are listening is, what matters at the end of the day is that you do what you say you're going to do, that you underpromise and you overdeliver, and that you operate with the highest levels of integrity. We can help you raise lots of money, but if those things aren't true about your organization, your results in year 2 or 3 or whenever, they're ultimately going to shrink because people are going to see, hey, you're not living up to the promise. So those are important factors, and Convoy of Hope is one of those organizations that operates at the highest levels of integrity, does what they say they're going to do, and always under promises and over delivers. And I think that was a part on the other side of the equation that led to Convoy's success. But I got to experience that ride for about 10 years and was approached by Bob Westfall, a few years ago, asked me if I would consider becoming his successor. He was ready to step into retirement. And this, for me, Lee, was an opportunity to help other organizations experience the success that we did at Convoy of Hope. And so far, it's been a lot of fun.
Now, how do you help the nonprofit that might be struggling with maybe the optics of, hey, we're going to invest a lot of money on this special experience for the wealthiest people that are in our community, and it's not really part of your core work that you're doing on a day-to-day basis, that you're focusing on relationship building and nurturing these high net worth folks that aren't really the community that you probably serve. They're a portion of it, but they're really the funders of it. So how do you help the organizations reframe the optics of that?
Yeah, we would often help them identify someone in their network that could help underwrite part or all of that first event. But ultimately, what this is about is ROI. For every dollar that you invest in gathering this audience, you're going to get $5, $6, maybe more back to fuel the work that you just described there, Lee, whatever their core mission is. Fundraising it's a necessary endeavor for any nonprofit. And there is a dynamic here of you don't just reap what you sow, but you reap based on how much you sow. And it's kind of like that story I shared from our beginnings at Convoy with Westfall Gold. We sowed sparingly and we reaped a small harvest. When we sowed more generously, we reaped a much larger harvest, the $3 million first event. And, now that same event, 10 years later is raising tens of millions of dollars each year. So it's there's a correlation there that is important to pay attention to. It's a bit of a risk reward. You have to have the courage to take a smart risk in order to earn that generous reward. And we would help again identifying for year one someone that can help underwrite it and in full or in part. Usually, what happens though is after an organization experiences that return on investment. It's, they're saying the same thing I am today. It's, look, for every dollar we put in, we're getting 5, 6 back. There's no place else we can do that.
Now, what's the pain these nonprofits are having right now that Westfall Gold can help them get to new levels? Like, have they plateaued, or is it getting, they're generating less and less donations? Like, what is the kind of the pain point they're in where Westfall Gold is the right move for them to make?
Yeah, I can't speak, Lee, to what every nonprofit is feeling, but what I can say is that Westfall Gold is prepared and poised to help them more effectively engage major givers that are in their network, or even just to identify. That's usually the starting point for us, is helping them, bringing some tools that we have access to the table, and helping them identify people that are already in their file or in their network that have significant capacity to fund their mission, and they're just not even aware of those people. And so that's usually the starting place, and that is an exciting series of conversations, because these leaders then see how much potential there is right in front of them. We, in fact, did a study just a couple years ago and found that when we examined the donor files of our clients across all sectors and sizes, that only 11% of the people who had major giving capacity were actually giving at that level. Everybody's thinking about, how do we go find the next, $1 million donor, but there's 89% potential just living within their existing files. And so that's the first step for us. It's to help them surface and understand who's already giving to their organization that they need to be more effectively engaging. If they're only giving, $100 or $500 or $1,000 a year, but they could be adding some zeros, it's likely that the only reason they're not doing so is because they have not been engaged effectively. So we're prepared. We've got a long track record of success helping organizations effectively engage major donors. We are experts in leveraging the power of gathering. And so we can combine those two muscles. We talk about them like two muscles, two biceps. We can lean into just the consulting and development work absent of an event, or we can blend an event into the model. And of course, that is where we've seen the greatest success over the years.
And if somebody wants to learn more, have a more substantive conversation with you or somebody on the team, what's the website? What's the best way to connect?
Yeah, invite you to check us out at westfallgold.com, WESTFALL gold.com. And you can learn more about how we can serve you, your organization, and set up a time to connect with our team.
Well, Dan, thank you so much for sharing your story today. You're doing important work, and we appreciate you.
Thank you, Lee.
All right, this is Lee Cantor. We'll see you all next time on Atlanta Business Radio.